Welcome to Your Future in Sales and Marketing, a podcast that helps you make great career decisions to get the most out of your career journey. We'll introduce you to the AXR network of established senior leaders and a hand-picked group of future aspiring leaders who have it all in front of them. You'll learn what it's like in the top job and how to get there. Your hosts from AXR's specialist sales and marketing recruitment team will also land bonus episodes for you on how to work with recruiters, write a resume, and smash an interview, as well as our very popular market updates. It's the podcast that has it all. You can't get this career advice anywhere else.
Welcome back to Your Future in Sales and Marketing from AXR. My name is Ben Carnegie, Principal Consultant of Marketing. It's great to have you back again. We're nearly at the end of financial year there, so I hope it's been a good half of the year for you. Today I'm joined by Nick Cook, General Manager of Marketing from Mad Mex. Welcome, Nick.
Great to be here, mate. I hear this is close to the 150th episode.
I think we are getting pretty close, so the numbers are definitely getting up there, which is great to see. I'll have to check it off as if you're the official 150 or not, but definitely getting close. Before we get into all the melty, cheesy goodness that is Mad Mex there, I thought I'd dive into our usual sort of icebreaker questions. Really keen to sort of understand your background, where it all sort of started before your career. But firstly, what's your favourite brand?
So my favourite brand probably jumps around month to month. At this point in time, I'm loving Traveller Beer. Do you know Traveller Beer?
No, I'm not all that familiar with it, to be honest. So, I'm not a beer drinker myself.
Very good. Well, it started by this guy called Travis Fimmel and Andy Fleming, I think. Let me just double check that. And something Andy, he's a guy from MasterChef, but basically it is this really kind of, I suppose, Australian-based beer company, and they do the most incredible content. They've got a very clear brand positioning. They're basically for the Australian rural community. They're all about having fun and basically taking the piss, which is their brand line.
Very Aussie.
It's amazing. So some of the content that they've shot recently, which I think is just, it puts a smile on your face. It's this guy, Travis Fimmel, he's doing wakeboarding, but instead of doing wakeboarding as you would normally do, he's getting towed by a horse and someone riding it down the side of a river. Then there's another piece, which I think is very, very good, where he's roping a cow, but he's doing it on a little Shetland pony. So it's just this kind of stuff that just makes you laugh and makes you want to be part of the community and part of the tribe. And I think it's just a great example of a brand that's got a very clear path and a very clear strategy, and they just execute it incredibly well.
I can't imagine that horse getting up to speed enough to get you out of the water on a wakeboard, to be honest.
No, that's part of the fun. The stacks are awesome to watch. So I highly recommend you check out their content. It will definitely put a smile on your face.
Excellent. Nice one. So look, let's dive into a bit of who you were before your career. Like, where'd you grow up? What sort of encouraged you to get into marketing in the first place?
Yeah, I think like a lot of people that get into advertising, it wasn't really the plan the whole way through. I grew up in Sydney. Parents were teachers. I went to uni. I did international studies, which is basically a degree for when you're not quite sure about what you want to do. I did it at Sydney. And I did a lot of I played a lot of tennis. I was a tennis coach for about 5-6 years while I was going through uni, which was a lot of fun. And when I got to the end of my degree, I was kind of like, I'm not quite sure what I want to do. So I applied to do a job in ASIO. So I did Italian as a major.
Are we allowed to talk about this today?
I don't know. You might get a knock on the door. But I somehow that didn't quite pan out. I did a bunch of tests with them. It just fell off. And then I saw a flyer for the Advertising Federation of Australia grad program.
Okay.
Applied to that. It was probably the most nerve-wracking presentation of my life, but ended up getting in and getting a job at Euro RSCG, which is now Havas.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Excellent.
so that's kind of kicked off my career, and I started off in advertising agencies. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think the grad program, I'm not sure if it's still running now, but it was an incredible experience. There's been a lot of people that have gone on to do some amazing things in there, and it was just a great way to start out in the industry.
Indeed. I mean, look, a lot of people start from agency, and it really gives you a lot of breadth across a number of different industries to really help you determine where you want to spend your time once you flip to the client side. Having had that breadth of clients and portfolios on the agency side, what sort of foundational marketing skills and lessons did you pick up from agency that then led to your success today? Yeah,
I suppose so. Just in terms of agencies, at Havas, I think I was fortunate enough to work on about 5 or 6 different categories. I started off in pharma, which probably wasn't my strong suit. It's not the most creative industry you can do, but I do know a lot about diabetes drugs now, which I still remember to this day, which is so super interesting stuff there.
Who knows if that'll come in handy for you later?
Who knows? Touch wood.
Touch wood it doesn't.
So I worked on pharma, then I did a bit on alcohol, and then a lot on FMCG with Reckitt Benckiser. And so that was my career mainly at Havas. And then I went to DDB, worked with Telstra, and then to Saatchi and Saatchi, which again are very different. They're all very different agencies and they all have their own strengths and weaknesses. But I think, Saatchi's was probably the most formative. And I kind of look at it and go, it was, and I think it still is a massive creative powerhouse. And there is an obsession with the craft. I think the thing that you look at now is, you can have the best strategy doc in the world, but at the end of the day, all that really matters is the execution and what the end customer sees and what they feel, because that kind of really defines the brand. And I think the agency kind of experience I had really put an appreciation for that. And I think it's probably something that stuck with me even when I went client side after that.
Fair enough. I mean, a lot of people I think face this in their careers with agency life there as well. You do learn a heck of a lot, and I think agencies sometimes work a lot harder than those on the client side.
Definitely. Potentially.
They work a lot longer hours perhaps too. But when did you kind of know that you'd done your time in agency and wanted to switch to the client side?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things, the best thing about being an agency owner, as I said, is it kind of gives you a real appreciation for the craft and you're very focused on that. But at the same time, you don't really own the end result. And I think that's why probably a lot of agency people want to move client side at a certain point, because you get to see it the entire way through. When I was at Saatchi's, I decided I'd then go and do an MBA. And I think that I did that so that I could get a lot more exposure to, I suppose, the financial workings of business. I actually majored in financial management and corporate strategy. So I was very, very different to the creative background that I'd been part of, but that was very much by design. And I think it was a desire just to get a lot closer to the businesses that I was working on and really understand kind of what made them tick and how to kind of make them work beyond the communications.
Fair enough. Yeah. And so you did eventually take that plunge into the client side and landed at Hyundai.
I did.
Obviously, we are working for a Korean-operated business, but within Australia. I'm sure had its challenges there. Great business to work for, though.
Yeah.
What sort of challenges did you face, and how was it working in that environment?
Hyundai was a lot of fun. It was doing, it was the number 3 automotive brand in the market at that point in time. It was very much a volume brand, and it was basically just hammered the 19990 i30 drive away. And I think that incredible deal. And I think we ran that for quite a long time, which definitely gave the business a lot of market share. I think, organizationally, it was very much a Korean business that operated in Australia. So it was super hierarchical. And it was kind of, you turn up to meetings and you kind of think, oh, that was a great meeting. And then we'd have a Korean marketing lead and we'd have the Australian marketing part of the business. And the Korean part was, no, that didn't go well at all. And you're like, what? Everyone was nodding and smiling. He goes, no, you have to learn the subtext and you have to learn how the different cultures work. And I think that was something I hadn't really experienced before. But I think it was very good in terms of how to navigate different corporate environments, because I think it was probably a lot more complex than many other businesses just by the very nature of how it was set up. I do think as well, though, it was like a ton of resources to be able to do great work, and also a brand that had a lot of momentum and a lot of kind of, I think, tailwinds that gave you a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely. I mean, look, Hyundai's been here in market for a long time, but like you say, they started off as a value brand to begin with there, and then you had the opportunity to launch the N series line of vehicles out there. How did you bridge that gap from being a value brand to being a performance brand? Yeah,
I think I'm not sure whether I'd say Hyundai's nailed their performance brand, but yet I think there's probably still a bit, it's still kind of maybe have some of the hangover of being a value brand. I think they're trying to shift that at the moment, particularly with a big focus on electric vehicles. I think the launch of N, though, that was probably a highlight of my time at Hyundai. We had a big focus on trying to really engage with the auto enthusiast community, and basically took the strategy that Subaru had done with their WRX and tried to kind of create this like band of, I suppose, really influential auto enthusiasts that would gather together for car meetups and do things like that.
Track days and that
track
type of thing.
days, did tons of them, and we basically created N Performance, which is a social community. I think it's still going to this day, but that really helped propel the brand forward, because then they talk to their friends and go, oh, no, Hyundai's really changing. And they would obviously very influential in their own community. I think another highlight that I just remembered was when we did this thing. I'm not sure if you know the super speed comparison that happens at the F1.
Yep.
Have you seen that?
Yep, I've seen that.
Yeah. So we had Mercedes decided not to take it for a year. So I jumped at it and said, we can get a Hyundai in there. And we got our en-road car, a Hyundai TCR car, and also up against the Minardi Cosworth, the 2-seater.
Right.
So the highlight was I got to go around the track at Melbourne Park before the F1 Grand Prix. And I think I was up against Heston Blumenthal, he was lucky enough to get to see in the Minardi. But,
okay.
But I think we still won in the
food to racing.
Yeah. We still won in the en-road car. We beat the TCR and the Minardi. I was like, you get a big gap in terms of where you start.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a really cool story there, actually. And the end line, obviously, they've done really well there. I often hear people doing donuts outside our house late at night.
Yeah.
And it's often a Hyundai
often an end. Very good.
That's right.
Yeah.
But not only the performance side of that, you also got to work on EVs, and obviously EVs have exploded in more recent times, and the price of petrol's probably driven a fair bit of that recently.
Yeah.
But you got the opportunity to sort of work with EVs when they were first coming out, and like limitations of what was about, I think you mentioned 280
280 range.
There's a limit.
That's what they said. I mean, I think that first Ioniq, you kind of sat in the car. And I remember I didn't have that longer commute from work to home, but I remember just looking at it with the range kind of dropping down. There was a massive thing about range anxiety. I don't think it's still as prevalent as it is today, but that was, early days, that was very much a fear, and I think quite a warranted fear amongst the community. I think EVs have obviously come a hell of a long way. You've probably got better range on them now than you do with a lot of ice cars. So I think it was, early days, and it was hard to get adoption. And I think that, again, you always got those early adopters that you want to influence and you want to get your product in front of them. And we did a lot of work with that, particularly, I think, in the fleet business. That was a big part of the strategy. Mm-hmm. A lot of councils wanted to kind of show that they were going green. So we obviously tried to put our product in their hands, and obviously a lot of kind of people that were in tech and I think engineering, we tried to engage that community. So it was a very targeted strategy versus the mass market one that the core Hyundai brand focused on.
Okay, excellent. And look, obviously you spent a bit of time Hyundai there, a couple of promotions and that sort of thing in your time. When did you start to realise that your time was coming to an end and it was time to look at other options? Yeah,
I think it's I think my agency experience was always something like I wanted to go as broad as possible. Like I kind of wanted to have as much exposure early on in my career to as many different industries and as many different environments as possible. I think one of the things that, Hyundai, when you're in marketing, you're in control of the communications in auto, but I don't think you have exposure outside of comms. Like you've got a product team, which is probably they're all engineering background. You got your sales team that manages your pricing. Mm-hmm. And so if you want to be a really holistic marketer, I think you should be in control of the 4 Ps. So I think that's one of the challenges that I think that I was looking at at Hyundai going, I'm not really managing that side of thing. And I thought I had the experience. So, a lot of the MBA work I'd done was around pricing and also, I think obviously experience in product through market research and stuff. So I thought that I wanted to kind of have exposure beyond the communications layer that I was getting at Hyundai, and that was the focus. And that's why I thought it was probably time to move.
Sure, fair enough. And so perhaps before that time, I'm not sure, you joined the Marketing Academy on a scholarship program. Did you start that whilst you were still at Hyundai?
No, that was in Mad Mex in 2023.
Oh, okay, right, no problem. So obviously continual growth and learning and networking and the program that you went through there. And we try to partner with the Marketing Academy as often as we can there as well. But how did that program sort of influence your leadership style and professional network? Yeah,
I think at a base level, everyone that's in the Marketing Academy is probably an exceptional marketer or an exceptional communications expert. So I think that's the base layer. The Marketing Academy is more about development of soft skills. I think, and it also gives you a chance to really pause and reflect and kind of take a step back and go, where do I want my career to go? And on top of that, it's obviously great networking. I think the soft skills, the one that I think stood out for me the most that I still kind of keep to this day is just about the importance of vulnerability in creating a strong performing team. Like I think that, the more open you are with your team, the more you can kind of, I suppose, get to them on a personal basis. And it enables you to have, I suppose, probably what would be more difficult conversations about the work. I still remember Brent Smart presented at one of the things, and he's like, always be, hard on the work, kind to the people. And that really stuck with me. I think it's an old Saatchi's motto as well, to be honest. So that's probably where he got that one from, but it still stuck to me. And I think that that's kind of a philosophy that I've taken forward. And I think that the Mad Mex team that we have at the moment, everyone's super open and honest with each other, I think, and therefore the work's probably as good as it can be.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's a great program there. And I just think the alumni that comes from it there, the breadth of network that you can then call upon post doing the program. And as you say, excellent marketers that go through that.
Yeah. I had some fantastic mentors as well. I think that's the other part of the program. So, the Marketing Academy is, you do these 3 boot camps, which is really soft skill and leadership development. And then outside of that you get paired up with about 8 mentors who are really kind of high level CEOs and CMOs across the industry. I had some incredible ones that, really went over and a bit above and beyond with their time. They, you kind of go, we'll have 1 hour meeting. I think that in the main, I would have met with most of them multiple times just because everyone's so generous with their time and everyone just really wants to help and kind of, really help shape your career and give you advice. So I think that's just a great thing about the community.
Exactly.
And still and that's the same with the cohort that you kind of go through with, you get a lot of great friends out of it. You constantly catch up. It's probably not as often as we'd all like, but it is a very, very tight-knit community, which I think is fantastic.
Excellent. So really you moved from fast cars to fast food there. Tell us a bit about your role as General Manager of Marketing for Mad Mex, the scope and scale of the role.
Yeah, so Mad Mex, for those that don't know, is a Mexican fast food chain. We compete with the likes of Guzman and Gomez, Zambreros, Salsas, and a few other ones. We're not at the scale of those guys. We've got 75 stores all across Australia, predominantly in New South Wales though. The role it is still, I think it's important to note, it's still 100% owned by the founder, which is very unique. I think in fast food, there's constantly private equity deals kind of going out. And I think that the advantage of being 100% founder owned is he's still very involved in the business. He's got a very clear vision for the business. And also he's, obviously got 100% skin in the game. So we are very focused on making sure franchise profitability is at the forefront. And everything we do is obviously to kind of make sure that the business is, as strong as it can be. The role itself is a very, general manager and marketing role. So everything you would expect as part of that. So looking after the communications, product development, pricing strategy, different sales channels, like how do we balance digital, delivery, and in restaurant. Obviously, we want to do as much as we can in restaurant, but so it covers pretty much everything.
Excellent. Very involved founder and obviously, real passion for them to still be as involved in the business as they are. Sales there as well. Who runs the business? Marketing, sales, or the founder?
It's, as I said, still a founder-owned business, so he's very much in the driver's seat. He's involved in a lot. We kind of catch up quite regularly, but he's got a great vision for where he wants to take the brand. I think if, when you went back and look at Mad Mex back in 2007 when it started, it was this kind of cool punk kind of band. It had this luchador mask. It did crazy things like a 1 kilo burrito. It's kind of, I think
you get your name on the wall when you finished it.
If you could finish it, like it's a big, you need a nap after it. But I think it's kind of the next phase of Mad Mex is how do we bring some of that kind of cool punk feeling that the brand used to have back. And I think that that's kind of what our next phase of growth looks like. So he's very much involved in it where, at the heart, it's a restaurant business. So whatever the customer experience is in restaurants, probably the most important thing. So operations, I'd say, is probably the focus.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, you've gone from Hyundai to Mad Mex, so really global matrix style of organization to then an owner-led business structure. How did that sort of change and influence decision-making and speed?
It's QSR, so everything is super fast. I think it's 10x what you have within automotive. Obviously, you know a car's coming 3-4 years in advance, and you probably know what it looks like about 18 months out. So your pace isn't nearly as much. Although in saying that, Hyundai is obviously a dealer model, so still a franchise model. So there is that pace of I think if you're working in the retail side of an automotive brand, but I think the pace in QSR is like any other organization I've worked in already, the other business I've worked on, which I think is a really exciting thing. From a management structure, Hyundai was obviously a lot more complicated in terms of just lots and lots of different layers. Mad Mex, you can kind of make decisions a lot quicker. I think, the key skill that you take from both is just influence, and how do you influence different people? That's probably I think there's not a very hard and fast playbook on it. But I think just general influence and soft skills is probably the most critical thing that you kind of develop in both organizations. And it's a different strategy in both. It's kind of, the founder side of things, it's kind of a lot more collaborative. You're trying to ideate a lot together. My founder, Clovis, founder of Mad Mex, Clovis, he's got a saying, a little rudder helps, or something about a rudder on rocks. But basically, the kind of thought is, how do we kind of work on things together and and before stuff kind of veers up too much off course or what his vision is. So very collaborative. And I think it's very fast moving at the same time.
Indeed. So, a few years in the business there now, what would you say are some of the key achievements or most impactful projects that you've worked on since joining Mad Mex?
I think that one of the first projects I did was a collaboration with Smith's Chips, where we got this hot sauce flavored Smith's chip into retailers. So we got that into petrol and convenience, and also into Coles and Woolworths. And that had this fantastic effect on the business, in the sense that anyone that bought a packet of chips also got a free burrito. So the kind of transaction volume we got through that was really, really great. I think I've also done some pretty edgy marketing. I reached out to Liquid Death a few years ago.
Oh, yes.
And I thought, I want to be the first brand to stock their product in Australia. So I kind of reached out to their office in the States, got a hold of their kind of distribution guy, said, yeah, we'd love to partner with you. And we worked on a campaign together, which was tied into the Big Burrito. A kind of macabre campaign, I suppose, in hindsight, where it was the kind of strap line was brave of heart, small of stomach. And if you went in the draw if you bought the Big Burrito and a can of Liquid Death to win a burial plot. And I think it was very much on brand for both of us. It's kind of mad. It was very edgy, and I think it got a lot of people talking about the brand. And sales for that particular Big Burrito campaign were the highest we've actually ever seen. So it just shows that if you can have, particularly for a challenge brand like Mad Mex, we need to do stuff that feels a little bit uncomfortable. And I think we really pushed it with that one. But it was a great tie-up, and it was a lot of fun to work on.
Excellent. Speaking of chips earlier, anything that you want to share at the moment?
Yeah, of course. So, 20 years in the making, Mad Mex, we're going to be launching fries. They're called Baja fries. And I think it's an interesting story, right? When we were doing the product development piece, we did a lot of customer research, and we had this great product, which was like Mexican chicken salt. And then, everyone loved it. I think if you launch chicken salt in Australia, it's kind of a bit like crack. Like everyone was obsessed. I think but I think when you kind of look around the food court environment, it's about 10 other brands that have chicken salt chips. And I think we took a step back and go, for a brand like Mad Mex, we need to do stuff that is different and pushes everything a little bit forward while staying true to being really Mexican. So we came up with this chili and lime dusting.
Okay.
It's called Baja fries. It's kind of like you put your hand in, your hand is covered like they would be with Doritos. We acknowledge that, probably 10% of customers won't like it. It'll be too spicy, but I think that's okay. If you want to get chicken salt chips or plain chips, there's 10 other businesses that you can get that from. At Mad Mex, we do things with tons more flavor, and that's kind of why we went down that route. And I think that product development experience was, it was a lot of fun. And I think it kind of just goes, when you've got a brand, it's easy to play it safe. And, I'm sure the chicken salt chips would have been really well liked, but they wouldn't have done as much for the brand as I think that these Baja chili and lime fries have done.
Exactly.
Or will do.
And look, that example that you're using there around the new Baja chips there will somewhat answer the next question that I've got for you, but I'm sure there's others as well. The QSR space is very competitive, and particularly within Mexican cuisine.
Yeah.
How do you stand out?
Yeah. I think the Liquid Death example, I think the Baja fries, so I think you've got to look at, across the board, what you're doing within your communications, plus also what you're doing with your product development. And I think, every business has got their niche. So GYG, it's, I think you look at them, they're the behemoth, right? They've got a very kind of McDonald's type feel. They're very accessible across all age groups, categories. Zambrero's got a much more healthier positioning. Mad Mex, we're trying to get back this more punk rock kind of cool Mexican type feeling.
Yeah.
We've got a segment of the market where we're looking at probably like 16 to 35. I don't think we're ready for the oldies. We're definitely never going to be for the really young, but we're going to play in that spot where if you want a more flavorful experience and a bit more of an edgy experience, that's kind of where we sit.
Okay. Excellent. And when you look at, again, the two businesses, Hyundai, a huge dealer network, then you're working in Mad Mex with a whole lot of franchisees. What sort of transferable skills did you take from Hyundai across to Mad Mex that helped with influencing large groups of franchisees?
Yeah, they're both franchise businesses at its heart, slightly different business model. Well, actually, very different business models and very different, I suppose, structures. What I think is true for both of them is you've just got to understand how both of their business models work and how they both make money. At the end of the day, profitability is key. There's a lot more. The margins are obviously a lot thinner. Actually, I'm not sure that's entirely true, but the margins are thinner on QSR.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have to be very cognizant of is just how we can support each franchisee, because when they're really profitable, that's obviously great for the brand and it helps us grow. So I think that the skill on that is really getting to know the core business of every single franchisee and all the dealers and really understanding what you can do to help them grow. You know, it's obviously for both of them, it's a big focus on local area marketing from a marketing point of view. Like, how can we make sure that every single one of the franchisees is really embedded in their community?
Mm-hmm.
How can you and also, you know, we just got to make sure that you listen to them and stay very close to kind of what their kind of pain points are and then actually have come up with solutions to help. I think, and the challenge is, you're never going to please everyone. I think that's the reality. The reality of it.
No matter what you're talking about.
Yeah. And if you try and please every franchisee or you're definitely going to fail. And I think it's just basically one of the key things I've learned is you have to be able to explain the why behind your decisions with incredible clarity. And it has to be very succinct, and you have to be able to get buy-in with everyone understanding the why you're doing things. And I think if you can communicate that, that's obviously a really good one. I think, an example is that Baja Fries example I've spoken about before. Like, are we wanting to be the mass market brand? And I think that that's not the case. There was a lot of pushback when we said, we're going to do chili and lime. Everyone's like, well, what happens if we have some kids and they don't like chili? Yes, that is potentially a downside. But as you said, you're around, as I said before, there's 10 other businesses in that food court where they can get a fry that isn't spicy. But this is the only place that you can get it for Mad Mex. And I think when people understood that that's what the brand stood, like where we were taking the brand, that definitely made it everyone understood and could get behind that.
Exactly. I mean, that's the beauty of a food court there as well, though. Like, I could go and get my Mad Mex. My daughter can go and get sushi. We can all sit together on the same table. Yeah. Everyone's happy.
Yeah. And there's 10 other places you can get your Mexican chicken salt or chicken salt.
That's right. You can go and find that chicken salt wherever you like. I'll turn it to a bit more of a leadership conversation there now. You've got 7 people you mentioned in the team there. How do you connect your team to the business strategy and goals?
Yeah, I think in a few ways. I think that, as I said before, we're a small team, but we're a very collaborative team. I think that everyone, with no decisions made in a silo, it's not like any top-down directives. Mm-hmm. When we are like coming up with the strategy for a new product or a new marketing campaign or even kind of looking at pricing, we're all in a room, we're all kind of working on it together. And I think that as you progress, as you kind of work through these different things with your team, it's no one's kind of ever left behind. So I think that's the key bit. And I think the fact that what I said before about the marketing academy and about the importance of vulnerability and kind of in order to kind of create an environment where people feel they can express their opinions and they can actually kind of help develop something. That's pretty much how it kind of works in Mad Mex. So I think that, the amount of healthy debates that we have it's constant. And I think that's actually, it is healthy. And I think it gets the best outcomes out of everyone.
Exactly. It's great when no matter where you sit within the hierarchy of the team, having a voice really helps engage you. And from the sounds of it, it looks like your team, you've got great tenure with it. And I'd imagine that opportunity to share your thoughts and actually have them heard has really helped maintain that. Yeah,
definitely. I think most of the team's been there for 5+ years. And I think that there's just obviously lots of opportunity. We are a lean team, so you get exposed to a huge amount of Mad Mex than if you were in a much bigger organization, I don't think you'd have. So, volume of work's high, pace is high, but I think at the same time, it's just a lot of exciting projects and a lot of autonomy as well, which I think people really value.
Absolutely. Well, look, things are obviously going really well with Mad Mex, and we'll see how much market share you grow with the launch of the Baja Fries there. Looking at advice to young marketers as they come up in their career, what advice would you give them?
I suppose it really depends what you want to achieve, but I think that what I've always thought of as important early in your career is go as broad as possible. Like, try and get exposure to as many different categories, as many different functions as you can when you're early, and just test different things to see what you like and what fits. whether that be communications, whether that be digital, social media, client side, media side. I never worked in media agency. I probably would have liked to have done it at some point. But I think that if you can do all of that, it really sets you up well for the future. I think when you're young, breadth, or you're earlier on in your career, breadth of experience is such an asset. I think when I kind of look at hiring new team members, I'm never going, I really have to have someone with QSR experience. It's kind of, I think that becomes more and more important as you get more senior, but young, I go broad, as broad as you can.
Okay. A question I get asked a lot in interviews, no matter what stage of your career you're at, is when am I best to stay in a position and grow and learn there versus when it's time to leave a business to grow?
Yeah, I think a really good question. And I think it probably depends on what your goals are and what you want to achieve. I think, the obvious one is when you don't feel like you're learning anymore, if there's any more opportunities for you to kind of make your impact. I think, at a certain point in any role, you probably have done what you can to do or what you came to do. Mm-hmm. But, I think if you're in a larger organization, there's probably a lot more areas that you can kind of move into different business units. So it's kind of, and also what stage of career you're at, I think is, as you get more and more senior, you can start to influence the business in a lot of different ways, and businesses go through different life cycles. So there's always a new strategy to kind of try and implement, or a new change that you can probably try and make. So I suppose take a step back, see where you kind of want your career to go. And if you can still make a big and positive impact, you can probably stay. If you kind of go, I can't really do much anymore, it's probably time.
Excellent. And like any sort of last pieces of advice that you'd have for up and coming marketers, or even people at your level wanting to make the switch?
Yeah, I think that one of the big things I always like to think of, are you playing it safe or playing to win? I think that's a really great kind of thing in marketing. We're in a job where it's our job to make the brands we work for stand out. So I think in marketing, you've got the opportunity to constantly push and constantly innovate. So whenever you're kind of trying to, communicate with your team or communicate with some different stakeholders, I always kind of have that in the back of my head, like how much can we push and how much can we make the work better? Yeah. I think that's a good philosophy to kind of take with you as if you're kind of in your marketing career.
Excellent. That pretty much brings us to the end of the questions for today. Thanks very much for joining us, Nick.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. It's been great to have a conversation with you there. Your future in sales and marketing will continue on, and many more episodes will be in our future again. Don't forget to jump on our website and sign up to our newsletter for all the updates on what's happening in the market and the Sales and Marketing Collective. Looking forward to seeing you again next month. Thanks very much. Cheers.
We hope you enjoyed today's podcast from AXR Recruitment and Search. We're passionate about helping you get the most out of your sales and marketing career. Keep listening as we bring you more career insights and advice from Australia's inspiring sales and marketing leaders. See you next time on Your Future in Sales and Marketing.